Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Well, hello Astro lovers. Thank you for joining me for this week's Astro Weather. I am actually doing things a little differently today. I'm using my little Astro wheel, and the reason I'm doing that is because Saturn has been crossing my Jupiter recently, and those who know astrology know Saturn rules anything seizing up or freezing up, and Jupiter rules hips. So no surprises, my hip has seized up and I cannot sit for any length of time. So I'm in a different position and not on the screen this time. And I'm doing this with my small Astro wheel so that I can be comfortable. You can purchase an Astro wheel if you'd like to through my website. Simply go to the website to purchase. And as usual, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and leave a comment in the comments section that's positive and uplifting so that I know you've made a like, share and subscribe and can go into the draw to win your very own solar return report for this month. But moving along, let's look at what's happening in the skies this week. Well, on the 14th of August, we have Mars down here making a conjunction with Jupiter in Gemini. This is happening at 16 degrees of Gemini just here. And this is two great friends coming together. In fact, in some schools of astrology, this is considered to be a combination for wealth and prosperity. Mars and Jupiter coming together in conjunction is sometimes known as a yoga for wealth. But it's time for these two friends in astrology to hit the dance floor. It's time for a little staying alive disco action with these two in fun-loving Gemini. And we are super enthusiastic under this energy, and our actions can be met with divine blessing and luck. Jupiter is divine blessing and luck, and Mars is the actions that we undertake. So you might hear a lot of astrologers talking about how negative this is, and there is some heaviness associated with this particular combination because of the connection with Saturn, but we're going to talk about that a little later. Mars and Jupiter conjunction is a good combination. It's a time for not hesitating. It's a time for jumping right in. As I've said, Mars is action and taking action. He's also the atomic strategist. And Jupiter gives this buoyant energy of belief. And together they allow us to make our great plans for the future, filled with hopefulness and aspirations that we can actually achieve. So it's time for believing in ourselves, my friends. It's time to take actions now to make our dreams come true. This auspicious energy is empowering at the very least. So some of the things you might be feeling at this time on the 14th of August, things like feeling bold and confident and energetic. We've got a strong willpower that enables us, to stand up for ourselves. We get our way in most areas of life, as long as it's fair and just and honest, we can get our way. We're feeling competitive often, and it's really good to put that energy into sort of worthwhile tasks, our impulses and our competitive strengths into something that's valuable and worth fighting for. We've got greater physical energy and endurance. Our business affairs can go well. We're a lot more skillful with our negotiations, not so blustery. Jupiter sort of calms that energy of Mars to make it more suitable for negotiations. We're able to work harder with a positive attitude. And we can be very, very productive. So it's a really good time for beginning new endeavors, especially entrepreneurial endeavors. If you have some sort of small business, Gemini is associated with small business, Mars is entrepreneurism, and Jupiter can expand and bless things. If you're looking to establish some sort of new business venture or just anything entrepreneurial, side hustle, that sort of thing, this energy is supportive, but there are other things going on at the same time we're going to talk about soon that are perhaps going to be a little bit more difficult to navigate. But this energy generally on its own is very, very good. It can increase our sex drive. It causes us to want to be warriors for just causes and to stand up and fight and not back down from a challenge. We can even become a little bit assertive, sometimes a little bit aggressive if we're not careful. There is a shadow side to this after all. We can behave a bit arrogantly or egotistically and a bit blunt. So we need to be aware of being insensitive to other people. That's the one caution I would give with this particular energy. Now, as I said, there is a square to Saturn forming. So let's draw this on the board. Here is Saturn and squaring Jupiter Mars. Also, we have another square aspect within range, within orb as well, and that is a square from Jupiter and Mars over here to Venus in Virgo. And this is all, excuse me, around the 15th of August, this is all making another square aspect to the moon. And what this is known as, my friends, is a grand cross. And this grand cross between all these planets is forming in mutable signs. So Mars and Jupiter at 16 degrees of Gemini. If you've got planets there, you'll feel this. Venus at around 12 degrees and thereabouts of Virgo. If you've got planets there, you'll feel this. Saturn at 17 degrees of Pisces. If you have planets there, you will feel this. And the moon is moving rather fast, so sort of between 12 to 20 degrees of Sagittarius. You will feel this if you have planets at that particular part of the chart. So these are the mutable signs: Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And you know something? People will talk about grand crosses as, oh my God, oh, intensity, oh, the energy is hard and harsh. And yeah, it often is, absolutely. But I feel the fact that this grand cross is in mutable signs will sort of counterbalance the usual intensity of a grand cross. You know, we're having a crazy time in world history. Let's just be thankful that this grand cross isn't forming in fixed signs, because that is the most intense energy for a grand cross to form in. Mutable energy is flexible, flowing, changeable, so we're more able to navigate the intensity of this energy. We can handle it, we can flow with it, we can find creative solutions, and we can even make our world better because of what unfolds on the 15th of August when we've got this grand cross forming. Why? Why can we make our world better? Well, because mutable signs always want to do something better. They want to make things better. They want to improve upon the status quo. So therefore, this grand cross holds the potential of blessing for humanity, provided we know how to surf the waves of this energy to get there. So we need to be flexible. We need to stay in the flow. We need to be mutable in energy. And if we can do that, then there is great potential to make positive change for humanity coming out the other side of this energy. Now, as you can see, we've got some squares forming, and they're all worth talking about, but I'm really going to focus on these two. We've got the Jupiter-Mars conjunction and the Saturn making a square, because that's where most of the intensity will be. You'll feel it very strongly on the 15th because the moon is joining in, and Venus is also part of this. But on the 15th of August, the one that's going to really come through most powerfully in our lives is this Mars square to Saturn. And then a few days later, we're going to have Jupiter in a square to Saturn. We're going to talk about that one in a second too. But let's start with the 15th of August, Mars square Saturn. You know that old Coke bottle analogy? The lid's on tight, you shake it until your arm feels like it's going to fall off, and then you unscrew the cap and poof, out come all the bubbles. They fly all over the place. Well, this is what that energy feels like. We are about to burst our bubble. You know, we are feeling on edge and everything's going to explode. If somebody says the wrong thing, I'm going to let rip. You know, we're at that point of frustration. We're the Coke in the Coke bottle being shaken up by circumstances and events that may or may not be true. Friends, may I just encourage you, stop watching the mainstream media news for this particular week or two of August, because they are really trying to agitate this Mars square Saturn energy and stir up that Coke bottle. So for your own sanity, for your own benefit, I just encourage you, stop watching mainstream media news and get your news from other reliable non-propagandist sources. But we're the Coke in the Coke bottle. We're being shaken up. And we often have no means of expressing our frustration that's satisfying. And then boom, it's too late and our anger spills out everywhere. This is the nature of this energy. So we need to find ways to release this anger, to consciously get it out of our system. You know, write a letter to the government or to your boss or to the authority figure that's pushing your buttons, and then just sit on it for a couple of days until this energy passes and cools off a bit, and then think about sending it, you know. Get it out of your system, but don't take action on it until this energy passes a little bit. Our desires and our needs are powerful now, but again, we can't seem to express it as we would like to. We feel like there's resistance at every turn, and just when we think we have a foot in the door, it slams on us and makes us yelp in pain. It's those sorts of feelings and frustrations. Often this is coming as well from authorities, as I've alluded to already. Father figures, bosses, superiors, they're putting the kibosh on us, and we can't find approval from our elders or the outside authorities, because Saturn rules all those things. Saturn rules authority figures. Saturn rules the government. Saturn rules all of the people who are keeping us regulated. And Mars wants to break free, and he just feels so frustrated because he can't with a 90-degree square. So Saturn square Mars is a time when our power feels thwarted. Our actions are met with resistance. We feel blocked. We feel challenged by others. We feel unable to fulfill our desires. You know, we're striving for our goals and ambitions still, but it feels like we're just treading water and getting nowhere, and it's futile. It's a very imbalanced energy, my friends. We can even end up seeing in our circumstances some misguided aggression, accidents, mishaps, antagonism. We need to be very careful with machinery and tools and cars and mechanical devices during the 15th of August and a couple of days before and after. Some people have even suggested that the so-called riots in the UK are connected to this particular energy forming and exacerbated by the fact that Jupiter is expanding it even bigger than it might otherwise have been in a Mars square Saturn combination. Jupiter is sort of blowing it out of proportion in many ways. But remember, my friends, I'll just point out Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. Gemini rules propaganda. If you're seeing stuff on the news about riots and so forth, do double check, do your due diligence however you can to find out, is this truth? Or is this incited violence from actors and what have you to make me feel a certain way, to make me respond and the masses respond in a certain way so that somebody can achieve their agenda. We've got to be so careful during this time when we have Jupiter in Gemini. It expands the propaganda. I said this in my video all about Jupiter moving into Gemini. Now, I'm not in the UK, so I'm not experiencing any of those things directly. I've only seen it on various social media posts and what have you. I'm sure there's many people in the UK who can verify this for us in the comments, politely please, and get our truth somehow from people who have direct first-hand experience, not from the mainstream media.
Okay, so we need to be careful with machinery, as I said. Back on track, Kesenya. We need to be very careful of any situations that involve guns or weapons or knives now, because people are more prone to fits of anger. We get bruised egos from clashes with authority figures. We need to get plenty of rest. We need to get plenty of relaxation and recreation, and this can help mitigate any blood pressure problems that might otherwise be caused by this transit. Some people, because Mars rules inflammation, some people might experience boils or eruptions or rashes. Your sexuality might suffer. We've got Jupiter conjuncts with Mars, making us more sexually hungry, let's say, and yet we've got a square to Saturn. Well, what's that combination going to do? Making us desire sexual expression and love, and the physicalness of the sexual attraction. And we've got Saturn blocking it. So what do we end up with? Sexual frustration. Okay, it could be quite overblown too. So it's not a good time for flirting or romance. There can even be trouble making just general decisions in life with this combination. We feel overburdened by responsibilities and the heaviness and hard work we have to endure. We feel frustrated. We feel bitter. We feel irritable. Life feels like it's full of delays, my friends, and we have a hard time finding direction. It sounds so depressing, doesn't it? But this is an energy, and it will pass. And remember, it's in mutable signs. I'll keep pointing that out. Mutable signs, my lovely friends. So when things are mutable, we can flow easier with it. It's not so rigid. It's not so stuck. It is a flowing energy. We can do our best to compromise with other people. We take life as it comes. We take it one day at a time, and we flow. We learn important lessons about our own personal nature and the use of personal power at this time. And we need to be very patient, just knowing that it is an energy and it too will pass. We've got this, and we've got each other. We can hold each other in love and care. And this is an energy that can actually ultimately help us to support one another and rally around one another if we can direct our energy into fighting for a just cause and righteousness. And that's what I encourage everyone to keep at the forefront of their consciousness during this transit, my friends. And now, the biggie on the 17th of August, Jupiter-Saturn square, Jupiter here in Gemini, Saturn in Pisces at 17 degrees. Look, this won't be exact to the minute until next week, but I wanted to get in and talk about this energy while it is fresh and on the boiler. It's already started. We're feeling this already. We're already in it, even though it won't be exact to the minute until next week. And it'll be felt most potently for about another 2 weeks. This square aspect will also be repeating on December the 24th this year. And there will be a third aspect after all the retrograde motions are finished and these two move on from this interaction. The final aspect will form on the 16th of June 2025. But by that time, Saturn's going to be in Aries and Jupiter will be in Cancer. It will be a cardinal square, and that's going to be a whole new ball game, my friends. I'll be talking about that next June, so don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel so you can get the lowdown when that one forms. So we've got two square aspects forming in these mutable signs, Gemini and Pisces, this year. The Jupiter-Saturn cycle is so important on a world history level, on a financial level, as well as the personal level that we're going to be talking about here. And that's what my focus is. I'm a personal astrologer. I'll be doing readings very shortly for everybody. These readings are personal readings for you, but they're a general read. They're generally looking at the energies and how they're generally likely to play out. We'll get to that shortly, but if you do want a much more personal analysis of your chart and what's going on in response to your circumstances and so forth at life, you can get a reading from me personally. And that's available at the website. The link's in the description below. But as I said, the Jupiter-Saturn cycle is so important. Jupiter and Saturn made a conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius back in December 2020. Everybody was talking about it back then. This marked the beginning of not only a new cycle of Jupiter and Saturn, but it's a new cycle of grand conjunctions. This began a cycle of conjunctions in air signs, because it was in Aquarius, an air sign, and this cycle of air sign conjunctions will last roughly 200 years. And we also just ended a 200-year cycle of grand conjunctions, as Jupiter and Saturn conjunctions are called. They're known as grand conjunctions. That ended in 2020, a 200-year cycle in earth signs. And that's been running for the entire duration of the Industrial Revolution that's occurred in humanity. That is the Industrial Revolution is actually a outworking of this Jupiter-Saturn energy in earth signs. Fascinating, isn't it? So needless to say, this new element for grand conjunctions in air is going to shift things away from materiality and earth focus, money and financial focus, to a more social focus, intellectual focus, and spiritually oriented cycle. It's very exciting. And we have yet to see the exact extent of what's going to unfold. But one thing is for sure, though, the old paradigms that we've been living under for the last 200 years are crumbling, and a new era is coming. It's not the offensive Great Reset that they're trying to force on us. See my downloadable free, I might add, protection ritual on my website for spiritual protection against that Great Reset that I spoke of in my video last week, which was indicated by a ritual in the Paris opening ceremony. For those who aren't aware about the rituals that they conduct against humanity, take a good look at the 2012 Olympic ceremony in London. And tell me if that's not a ritual telling us about the pandemic that they plan to release on us in 2020. It's even got Boris Johnson involved in it. It's just disgusting. And so, when they do a big ceremony like the Olympics, we know that there's going to be some ritual in it performed against us. Back to what I was talking about, you can get a protection ritual on my website to sort of reflect back to the WEF and the WHO and all those people involved in sort of Davos and so forth. You can reflect back to them their energy for intention for the Great Reset by using that protection ritual. Rather than that, they're trying to set up, now I'm on my bandwagon, they're trying to set up a new era, a new age that is under their control. They don't want to lose control. The people involved in the earth cycles who've profited from the earth cycles of grand conjunctions don't want to lose the control that they've built over the last 200 years. So they're trying to reset us into a new era where they will still have control in this air sign age that we're moving into. But it's not going to work, and it's not going to work because we are onto them. We're onto them, my friends. This is going to be an age of cooperation, not control, of uplifting all humanity, not creating wealth disparages, of win-win situations, not more for me and less for you. None of that anymore. It's going to be much more fair and equitable, but we've got to consciously move towards that, knowingly, with awareness. So in the next 200 years, mankind is going to move forward in leaps and bounds in this way, and we can easily see how the old power mongers are desperately trying to hold on to their crumbling reality at this time. So now, what we're at now is, after all that, thanks for listening, we're at the opening square of the first cycle. And that is a really significant thing to look at. This is the opening square. So we had the conjunction in Aries up here where Pluto currently is at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Now Saturn has moved to Pisces and Jupiter has moved to Gemini, and they're forming an opening square. And this is a really significant thing to look at. It's also really interesting to consider that when these two planets got together, got together back in December 2020, Pluto, that was at 0 degrees of Aquarius where Pluto currently is. And now it's moved to August 2024. They're in a square aspect, and Pluto is now at 0 degrees of Aquarius, the exact, get my words out, sorry guys, the exact same degree that their conjunction took place. And this makes 2024 a very interesting Jupiter-Saturn year, and it's an extension of what was happening obviously in 2020, and Pluto's chiming in as well. What does Pluto like to do? He likes to transform. He likes to change. He's not going to let the same old status quo exist. It's time for the darkness to be exposed and brought out into the light. That's what Pluto does. It's time for the ruthlessness to be revealed, and it's time for us to transform. Pluto is transformation, everything that has been darkness and done behind closed doors. So that's exactly what we see happening with the awareness and the awakening that's on the planet. And the more, Pluto has still to go back into Capricorn. I'll talk about that in upcoming videos. And then we'll come back to this 0 degree. So it's not over yet, folks. The awakening, the awareness, the rising up even of the masses to transform into this new age is ongoing as Pluto moves across this very active point in the chart. So yes, this 2024 square between Jupiter and Saturn is actually very, very important because it's still part of that cycle beginning in 2020. Now, let's put the COVID drama of the early 2020s aside. What was happening for you, my friends, in 2020? Did you begin a new relationship, a new career, a new health kick, new friendships, new side hustle, a new project? Well, look, whatever you began afresh in 2020, it carries this tone of the Jupiter-Saturn cycle, and it will be active in some way or another in your spirit, in your psyche, in your physical reality for the 20 years until this cycle comes back and repeats. This conjunction that we're talking about that occurred in 2020 comes back again and has another conjunction in an air sign. But we are now at the opening square of this 20-year cycle, and so it indicates that whatever it was that you started afresh in 2020, it's going to face some obstacles that you're going to need to navigate first in order to manifest more growth and the flourishing of your endeavors. So these endeavors that you began, I began my Royal Stars Academy around this time. I started researching it and writing it and began recording videos for it. And that's my project that I think is coming out of this 20-year cycle of Jupiter conjunct Saturn. And so now we're at this square aspect, and I know that, okay, my Royal Stars Academy might face some obstacles that I have to navigate. I might need to tweak some things. I might need to improve some things and add some things in, take some things out, make it better in some way. I might get some opposition about my Royal Stars Academy in some manner. But I'm prepared for that, and I'll work through it mutably and flow with it as best I can. If I can do that, if I can navigate those difficulties with that project that I began in 2020, then what's going to come out of it is more growth and more flourishing of that endeavor. But there's going to be some obstacles to navigate first. So I've used my situation as an illustration. You can think about your situation, what you started in 2020 that's still ongoing and that you're building on. That might face some obstacles and some difficulties as a result of this square. And in the end, it's going to bring you to a place of more manifestation and more flourishing if you can navigate those obstacles. This is a square aspect that brings growth, but the kind of growth that comes through hard work and effort. So we can expect big events that create massive growth in our life. These are big planets. We can see political changes that are going to significantly affect our economy because this is a very important square in financial astrology as well. Often the markets are very geared to the conjunctions, squares, oppositions, and trines of Jupiter-Saturn. Well, what are we seeing in the world right now? We've just this week heard how the stock market in America is tanking. This is a square aspect between Saturn and Jupiter that can cause this sort of thing. Financial astrology is fascinating. Generally speaking, there's going to be, though, more opportunities made available to us that require maturity, resilience, and mastery. Saturn rules mastery. It's actually a very exciting time if we can see beyond the frustrations of the moment and into the potential. So we're going to be looking at what house is going to be most affected by this transit. And I must say, you're not going to expect the house that I'm going to be talking about. It's going to be a surprise to most of you. I'm going to be using, and Spirit's been telling me this for a number of weeks, that I need to do this, okay? It's a different approach than I would usually use. I'm going to be using Vedic astrology aspects to find the house that both Jupiter and Saturn are stirring up the energy in together. Because they're in separate houses. Jupiter's in Gemini, Saturn's in Pisces. Saturn's stirring up the energy of the Pisces house. Gemini is Jupiter is stirring up the energy of the Gemini house, but there is one house that they are both aspecting with Vedic aspects where their energy is going to come together and mingle, and that is the house that I'm going to talk about and break down for all signs. So before I show you which house it is, let me tell you what some of the energies of Jupiter-Saturn mingling in a heavy aspect like this can cause. Well, as we've already talked about, it can bring restrictions and obstacles in your work life, in your career aspirations, but these are things you need to navigate, as I said. It can bring some moral dilemmas in your personal life. Your life might feel a bit unbalanced and unsupported, and this is all stuff you've got to push through and flow through right now to get to the rewards on the other side. So if life's feeling unbalanced, unfair, you're working too hard, or you haven't got enough work or something, this is all part of this. Life feels more demanding. There might feel like, you might feel like there's more pressures on your life at this time. It's actually, and remember I said, just watch out, even though Mars-Jupiter conjunction is great for business, this combination says it's a poor time for business and professional development. I'd be paying more attention to this combination than the usual Jupiter-Mars thing. If Saturn wasn't involved, it'd be fantastic for business, but Saturn is involved, so it's going to give you more obstacles to navigate. You might find that some old problems from the past come back and demand your attention now. Our judgment can be a little bit unsound, so it's not a good time for making important decisions in life. We can have some minor legal difficulties. I'm not talking about big overblown court cases, but just minor hiccups that need to be navigated. We tend to move also with a square aspect like this between optimism and enthusiasm. We feel a bit confused. Is this positive? Is this negative? I'll just let you in on a secret, my beautiful YouTube family, but every single one of these points involved in the mutable square is activating something in my chart. And I'm looking at it going, this could be really good. This could bring, this and that and the other because of the planets that are being, stirred up energetically. And so one day I'm like, this is great. It's going to bring promise. I'm really positive about this. And then the next day I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? How do I navigate this? It's going to be heavy. Like I'm feeling like I'm vacillating between optimism and enthusiasm, which is a nature of this particular combination. We want to escape the burdens of life, but they're just too heavy right now. Our responsibilities are calling us. We have to focus on them. We might even have extra work, extra pressure, extra obligations. We might even have more expenses that we have to navigate now. Financial matters aren't really favored, as I said, in the mass situation. Financial astrology, we often see a downturn in the markets under Saturn square to Jupiter, but it doesn't last. It can bounce back. So, and the same personally, you might have a lot more expenses now. Financial matters aren't really favored. It's a time that you should not borrow or lend if you can help it until this square aspect passes on. Now, the good news is that problems are rarely, if ever, long-lasting with this transit. So it is momentary, if you like, or cyclical, maybe a week or two, and then we'll be able to breathe a little bit more. But I have to say, the decisions that we make at this time can affect us in the long term. So use your wisdom, use your maturity. Don't make sort of impulsive, Mars might incline you to do so, impulsive decisions that you then regret down the track. Be very conservative with your finances during this transit, my friends. Very conservative. We need to learn to make compromises at this time, and this energy is going to encourage us to do so. We need to be responsible, and we need to be stoic and enduring. So hang in there, my friends. I'll keep posting videos, no matter what my hip's up to. I'll keep posting videos and trying to find the light in the astrological tunnel right now. So now, my friends, I'm going to show you the aspects formed by the planet Jupiter and the aspects formed in Vedic astrology by Saturn, and that will reveal to us the house of manifestation. So let us begin. Jupiter in Vedic astrology will always aspect the trinal houses, Libra and Aquarius in this case, and also the house opposite it, which is Sagittarius. So we've got an aspect to here, an aspect to here, an aspect to here in Vedic astrology. Saturn will always aspect the house opposite it, Saturn will also aspect the house 3 places ahead of it, Taurus. And Saturn will also always aspect the house in Vedic astrology 4 houses behind, Sagittarius. So despite all the scribble on the board, you can see that the one house that they are both aspecting at this point in time is not Gemini, it's not Pisces, it's not Taurus, it's not Aquarius, it's not Libra, it's Sagittarius. So let's put a beautiful big star here in Sagittarius, because Sagittarius, and this is what Spirit has been telling me to talk about, and it won't be what other astrologers are talking about with this aspect of Jupiter square Saturn. It is Sagittarius where a lot of this heavy energy will be manifesting, where Jupiter and Saturn's energy combines together and creates the effect. So my friends, let us start looking at the all signs breakdown and what it means for all signs with Sagittarius as the rising sign. There we are, Saggies. You get to go first this time. So Sagittarius, this aspect of Jupiter-Saturn combined energy is going to create some restrictions and obstacles in how you're interacting in the world around you. You might feel like life is very heavy upon you in many varied areas right now, because the first house is you and your purpose and mission and presence in the world, and that could feel heavy right now. That could feel restricted right now. You might want to initiate things and make new starts and establish new things, but there's obstacles and problems maybe coming from the government. Bureaucracy is punitive and irritating. Like I said, there could be minor legal difficulties with starting something new. You want to start up, let's say, a cafe, and you've got to get permission from council here, and you're going to get health department, meet their regulations there, and legally they're putting roadblocks in front of you, just wanting to make money to survive. Sagittarius, that is the Jupiter-Saturn square. But if you can push through the obstacles for anything that you're wishing to initiate, because first house is initiation. I mentioned a business, but it could be anything. You might be wanting to initiate a relationship. You might be wanting to initiate a move to another area. And there's obstacles and there's difficulties and there's legalities that you need to navigate. If you can flow through those, if you can push through those, you can actually have a blessing in the long run. But you've got to be able to push through the problems. And so it requires us to be stoic and responsible and just take things slowly and one step at a time, my friends. So there's some ways this could be expressing for you. There might even be physical effects if you are a Sagittarius person. Remember, Saturn is to cause things to contract, restrict, seize up in some way. Sagittarius also rules the hips, as Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So there can be some, like I've had, some problems with the hips, some problems with moving forward perhaps in life as well. Just generally speaking, like the hips and the thighs are actually representative of being able to move ahead. How do we move? We move our thighs, we move our hips, and then we can walk. That is very representative of being able to move ahead in life. And so you might have some trouble with your ability to actually walk or move ahead or move freely, perhaps, as I am having trouble with. And that can also equate to feeling frustrated about being able to move ahead in life, being able to sort of create the world that you want, get things happening on your terms, and make the world, like move ahead with a project, move ahead with a relocation, move ahead with a career aspiration that you have, and so on. So there can be some blockage there that you're going to need to navigate now. The last thing I want to mention, we've talked about some health issues, but we might even have old problems from the past coming back for our attention now health-wise. So if you've had, whatever issue it might be, it mightn't even relate to the hips or the thighs. It could be anything from the past. Saturn rules things that from long ago. They might be coming up now. This is in the house of the body. They might be coming up for your attention now. Old problems in physical health and physical appearance and general well-being require some attention, require your solution focus to try and sort them all out. Old problems in the physical health department. Now, remember, my friends, even though this all sounds very heavy and challenging, I want you to know that if you can push through these problems, you will come out the other side in a state of blessing. You'll be able to, that's what this square promises. This is a 20-year cycle we're talking about. It's not just now. This is just a hiccup along the road. If you push through this, by next year, Jupiter's going to be trining Saturn. And what that's going to mean is it's going to mean blessing. So this is about pushing through the obstacles to end up in a much better place. Iron out the wrinkles. Get the creases out of whatever it is you're working on, your health, your well-being, your purpose for being here, and you can actually come out the other side. I just want to remind you of that. Let's endure, let's be stoic, because the blessing is waiting for us on the other side. Thank you so much, my beautiful, beautiful Sagittarius friends. Now we're going to move on to Scorpio. Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon people. We see the energy of Jupiter and Saturn being directed to your second house, which is Sagittarius. As I've said in the introduction, I am using a very unusual way of doing this that Spirit prompted me to talk about, which is to focus on the Vedic astrology aspects that are stirring up the same house, which is Sagittarius, from the aspect of Jupiter square Saturn. So for Scorpio people, it's affecting your second house. This is where you might feel like there's more T's to cross and I's to dot, and there's problems that demand attention. And this is in the financial area for a start, your belongings and being able to accumulate money and resources. There can be some difficulties now obtaining wealth. Maybe you made some investments back in 2020 and they're now starting to tank and struggle. Just know it's a passing energy, and if you can flow with it, mutable signs after all are where this is occurring. If you can flow with it, if you can endure, you are going to come out the other side. It's just about holding on to the raft, to the lifeboat at this point in time, my friends. So there can be some restrictions regarding obtaining something that you consider to be valuable. Maybe you wanted to buy that car for your collection or painting for your art collection, and there's an obstacle to getting it. There's a restriction to getting it. My ex-husband's not a Scorpio, but he's been trying to bring a car out from America for over a year now, and he has had that many obstacles and restrictions legally. It's absolutely criminal what's been going on, I have to say. Really heartbreakingly disappointing to see what has been unfairly happening to him because of somebody else who had items in the shipping container that his car was in that's caused it to be held up for over a year. And still no end in sight. So, I just use that as an illustration. The second house doesn't necessarily rule cars, but it rules things that we consider to be valuable, things that we want to own, things that we want to add to our collection, whatever they may be. And so I just want to forewarn you, we've got to be stoic. We've got to be enduring, Scorpio, about our ability to obtain the items of value that we want in our life. And if we can push through this, the blessing can come out the other side. I just keep reiterating that because this is a big cycle we're looking at. It's not just what's happening this week. This is stuff that began in 2020 we have to move through and push through to get to a place of blessing materially that is promised to us. And this is coming, I feel, we'll get the first taste of that material blessing and material promise in 2025 when we have a trine from Saturn to Jupiter. But we've got to endure, we've got to be stoic, and we've got to be mature in the meantime. Now, for my beautiful Scorpio friends, we need to be very careful of face, teeth, hair and voice, which are all second house things. We need to really take care of those, put some attention on those areas of our body. We need to also perhaps deal with some old problems. Maybe years ago you had a teeth grinding problem and you got some attention for it back in the day, and now it's flaring up again. You've got to hunt out that old retainer that you had that stopped you grinding your teeth at night, that kind of thing. This is problems with the face, the teeth, the hair, the voice that we might need to give some attention to. There could be, I've already mentioned, bureaucracy, being punitive and irritating, having some legal difficulties pertaining to things that you want to purchase and things you want to own. But it can also be financially. So make sure all your financial affairs are in order, my friends. Don't have any sort of secretive behind the scenes, offshore tax accounts and tax dodging accounts, I should say, and bank accounts and things like that. Get them sorted. I'm not saying that we should pay all our taxes sometimes, so you'll wonder whether we should be with what they spend the money on. But I'm saying have everything above board. Dot your I's and cross your T's. Saturn's involved here, and he can bring karma back very quickly about any kinds of monetary things that are not honest and integrous. Jupiter is about honesty and integrity as well. So you really want to make sure everything's okay with your finances. But the good news is that problems here are very rarely ever long lasting. So, hang in there. You're going to be able to get through this. And if you can make compromises and can be responsible and be stoic at this time and just enduring one foot after another, then, don't let your blood pressure boil over. You will get through this out the other side. It's like I said, especially by 2025, when we start to see Saturn and Jupiter moving into more of a trine combination. Thank you, my beautiful Scorpio friends. All right, moving along. My Libra rising, sun or moon friends. Well, the energy that's playing out now is coming through Sagittarius as a sign. And the reason for that, I explained in the introduction, my Libran friends, is that the only sign that is aspected in Vedic astrology by Jupiter and Saturn is Sagittarius. This is where their commingling square aspect energy will be expressing through. Now, Spirit led me to talk about this. You probably won't hear any other astrologers talking about this combination online. I'm just doing what Spirit tells me to. And for you, this is the third house, Libra. This is where the restrictions and blockages of Saturn square to Jupiter might be expressing. So you might want to take a short trip. You might want to have a weekend away and do some, localized traveling, and something happens. They cancel your Airbnb booking, or your car breaks down and you can't take your car. The ability to move about, the ability to satisfy restlessness is somehow blocked and restricted with this energy. So forewarned, forearmed about that one. Friendships that feel like, brothers and sisters to you. You got your girlfriends and you're closer than your sisters, with your girlfriends. Or you've got your mates and, you're just like bros, Those sorts of friendships are represented by the third house, to be honest. And so there can be some sort of lack of support from those people in your life at this time. You might be looking for support from them, but it's just not there. You might find that that when it comes to those sorts of friendships, things are a little bit irritating. Things are a little bit frustrated with this energy. Don't worry, problems like this are rarely ever long lasting, but you might need to be a bit mature to navigate them, okay? So friendships can be just sort of rubbing you the wrong way in a sense at this time. If you have a small business, this is the house of small business and self-made wealth. So for some Librans, there could be something really irritating and demanding about running your own business at this time. There might be more legalities you've got to navigate. I am a Libra moon. I'm having to do my tax at some point in the next couple of weeks. I'm expecting that to be very annoying, quite honestly, with this energy playing out at tax time in Australia. Our taxes in Australia are due by October. So unless I leave it to the last minute, I'm going to be dealing with this energy. Damn it. But anyhow, bureaucracy can be very punitive at this time. So make sure your taxes, if you're a small business, are done honestly and above board and well. So there can be increased expenses at this time because financial matters really aren't favored under this combination. So if you've got expenses relating to a small business or even relating to, a trade that you have, that you run, or expenses relating to relatives or maybe neighbors, maybe you've got to replace your neighbor's fence or something, expenses there can be very irritating, very problematic. Financial matters just aren't favored under this energy. Anything relating to friendships and friends and expenses, neighbors and expenses, business expenses, trade expenses, and so forth. So just letting you know, my friends. We want to escape the burdens that this house is putting on us, but if we just can't. Life feels more demanding, and so our small businesses can be very demanding. Our friendships can be very demanding. If we're a tradesperson, running our trade business can feel very demanding. Using our hands can feel very demanding. If let's say you're an Australian tradie living in Victoria, let's say you're a builder on a builder's site, using your hands every day for your work. Well, Saturn is cold. Saturn is, and so you might be having to deal with frosty mornings that are, -2 degrees or something like that, like we've been getting in Victoria lately. And that's just, that is putting extra burden and pressure on your poor old hands, ruled by the third house. Your poor hands to have to carry, wood and nail up, housing frames and things like that. It could be something as straightforward and, practical as that. There's just feeling of restrictions and burdens and pressure on simply being able to use your hand, for example. So this is also, the third house is about messages. If we have a message that we need to share, that we want to put out there in the world, it can be blocked at this time. There can be sort of judgment. Now, here am I, Libra moon. I've talked a lot in the introduction to this video about some of the things that I see playing out in the world, and it's a message that Spirit's put on me to share. But with this combination of energy forming and taking action in my third house of putting a message out there, and this is an energy of people being, responding irritatingly or punitively or demandingly. I should expect that the comments in my comment section might be very problematic now, might be quite rude, might be quite not pleasant under this energy. So I need to be very mature and responsible and stoic about those comments, my friends. And if you're putting a message out there on social media, sharing what Spirit has put on your heart, sharing your opinion in some way, expect that it may not be received joyfully at this time. But that's, we've got to do what we're called to do, what our Spirit calls us to do, regardless of the consequences. This is an old spiritual adage that David and I often refer to. You must do what is right regardless of the consequences. That's an imperative for truly integrous people. We see plenty of stories and movies and history where people have chosen to not do what's right because the consequences were too great. Truly warrior people, truly warrior souls do what's right regardless of what the consequences are going to be. So if the Spirit is putting on you a message to share, if you're being led to speak up about something and you feel you must, then do what is right for you regardless of the consequences. Your karma is at stake, I guess, in those circumstances. So for my Libran friends, the third house is about putting a message out there despite how it might be received, despite the obstacles. Remember, Saturn Jupiter square energy is about moral dilemmas and the ability to put a message and speak your truth out there is the moral dilemma that might be coming up for you with this energy playing out the way it is. Now, with all those things in mind, it's all very heavy and depressing and kind of, oh my God, what's happening this August? My Libran friends, I really want you to know that, pardon me, that this is only a step in the process, because this is a 20-year cycle we're dealing with here. And this is just part of what must be moved through, navigated through, and with our mutable energy flowed through in order to get to the end result, which is blessing, expansion, and success. So hang in there, my friends. Know that if you can navigate this energy with wisdom and maturity, you're going to actually get blessing out the other side. Thank you, lovely Librans. Now we're moving on to our beautiful Virgo rising, sun or moon friends. Well, this energy is playing out the energy of Saturn Jupiter square. These two are aspecting one house, and it's not Gemini and it's not Pisces. In Vedic aspects, they are both aspecting Sagittarius only. So the energy of the Saturn Jupiter square we are seeing here expressing through the sign of Sagittarius, your fourth house, Virgo friends. So it's in the fourth house realm that you, my Virgo friends, might be experiencing some restrictions, some problems, some obstacles that do need working through. This is the house in Vedic astrology of your mother. So it could be that your mother, pardon me, is experiencing some kind of restriction or obstacle in her life. Could be physically, could be morally, could be financially, but there's something that is making your mother's life perhaps more demanding. So Virgo, be there for your mother right now, support her where you can, and help if there's any sort of problems in that regard. Secondly, this is the house of our inner emotional happiness. And we might feel very heavy, Virgo, under this energy. We might feel that at this time on the planet, it's just very, very demanding, heavy, unsupported energy. So do what you can and have some remedies prepared to support yourself emotionally, whatever that looks like. If you like taking a walk in the forest, then plan to do that. If you like going on picnics, if you like drives in the countryside, whatever it is that floats your boat, that helps you find your equilibrium emotionally, have a plan to utilize that, because this energy is a heavy one for Virgos on an emotional level. So the more that you can undertake these things with consciousness, knowing what's coming so you can plan for it and mitigate it, the better off you'll be, the more you'll be able to navigate this well. This is also in Vedic astrology the house of our luxuries and our toys, not our Barbie dolls, but things like, maybe we have a jet ski or something like that, grown-up adult toys, This is Vedic astrology, my friends, and so there could be some problem that occurs with one of your grown-up toys, For some people, it's a sewing machine. That's my toy. I love to play with my sewing machine. It could be anything. It could be, a fancy old car that you've got, or a motorbike, or, it might be, I don't know, could be some, an Astro wheel might be your toy, for example. It doesn't have to be big and expensive. But there's likely to be something problematic, it could even be because Mars is actually making an aspect here and involved as well. There could be some sort of breakage or, just an accident with a luxury item or some sort of toy that you utilize, and that could be frustrating. It could just put an extra burden on your life. I mean, let's say you've got a lovely old convertible MG or something like that, and you go to take it for a ride and you get a crack in the windscreen. Well, that's going to be costly, isn't it? That feels burdensome. I don't have the money to replace that, windscreen on a very unusual little car. So, this is what I'm talking about. Problems with those sorts of things can crop up now. We need to push through. We need to make compromises. We need to just flow with whatever the universe dishes out that's difficult right now. We can actually feel a little bit confused emotionally, I have to say, Virgo, under this energy, because this is an energy, the square from Jupiter-Saturn, sees us vacillating between optimism and enthusiasm. So emotional optimism, emotional enthusiasm, and then depression and lowness. So, it can be quite difficult in that sense. So again, I've already talked about having mitigating factors for if you're feeling low and feeling heavy, but if you really sort of feel like you're on the seesaw or on the roller coaster emotionally, maybe take some time out, take a rest, have a bit of a break or a holiday if you need that, just to help your emotions be a little bit more balanced wherever possible. So what else can we say about this realm? It's the realm of our home, our actual bricks and mortar home where we live. And this is also the realm of the chart that has to do with real estate and property. And so if you're looking at buying a home or an investment property or something like that, just know this is not a good time for business affairs. There can be some problems coming from bureaucracy and legal difficulties. I wouldn't be signing like a rental agreement at this time if you can help it. I wouldn't be looking at purchasing a home underneath this particular energy. If you can sort of postpone the signing of this for like a week or so, or maybe even 2 weeks, you'd be in a better position, I think, than to do so under this difficult energy in the middle of August. So there can even be sometimes problems with your home, like that home is just putting extra pressure and obligations and burdens on you. Maybe something's breaking down and you've got to replace it and it's expensive. This Jupiter-Saturn square can bring increased expenses to the home. Carpet gets ripped, you've got to replace it. What do? I'll buy a little rug to cover it for the time being, and and try and save up some money to replace the carpet, all that sort of thing. The good news is, my friends, that problems are rarely ever long lasting with this particular transit. So you can bide your time where needed, and know that the problems will resolve themselves eventually. You might find that to fix that carpet isn't going to be as expensive as you thought after all. There might be a solution that can do you in the meantime. You might even find that it's just, it's actually quite a blessing to have to replace the carpet because it was, getting worn out in other areas of the house, and now you get a good deal for doing the whole house all at once. So this is what I mean. The problems are rarely ever long lasting. You might need to make some compromises. You need to perhaps focus on being responsible and stoic regarding the care of your home or your garden, or if you're a farmer, your land right now, because this is the realm of the chart that has to do with farms, and if you're in an inherited family business like a farm, there can be sort of some problems that need to be sorted through here too. But I just want to encourage you, my beautiful Virgo friends, this is an energy that's part of a cycle that's 20 years long. And as I said in the introduction, if you can push through the obstacles of this energy now, if you can make your way to sort of be mature and make compromises and just mutably flow with these energies that are playing out the other side, we're going to be in about a year's time. Once you've navigated these obstacles, found solutions, tweaked things and made them better, out the other side, we're going to be moving into gradually an energy of Jupiter trine to Saturn, which is a great beneficial energy. And that's something to look forward to and to work towards, knowing that this is not life sucks forever kind of energy. It's a cycle. And it's part of a bigger cycle that ultimately is going to lead to greater blessing, greater opportunities, and greater success in your life if you can navigate it at this point in time wisely and well, my beautiful Virgo friends. Well, thank you, Virgo. Now we're moving on to lovely Leo. I say that every week, don't I? Lovely Leo. So Leo, this time in this video, we're actually talking about the square between Jupiter and Saturn that is occurring this week. But unlike what other astrologers will be talking about, Spirit has placed on me the need to talk about the house that both Jupiter and Saturn aspect in Vedic astrology, which happens to be Sagittarius, your 5th house. And so that will be the area of the chart that I believe will be seeing the expression of Jupiter and Saturn square expressing in. This is the 5th house, the house of fun, the house of parties, clubs, restaurants, dancing, going out and having a good time, doing what we enjoy the most. And Jupiter square Saturn brings blockage. It brings restriction. So life at this time for our beautiful Leo friends might not feel very fun. Might feel that, all the good times and the parties and the playfulness is just gone from life. Rest assured, Leo, this is only temporary. It's not going to be long lasting. This is just a passing cycle. I'll talk more about that shortly. But it might feel that life is a bit unbalanced now. You're working so hard and not seeing much fun out the other side. So that can be heavy, that can be difficult. The 5th house is also a house that actually connects to the reinvention of career and the renovation of career and reversals in career. So you could expect that when this energy is playing out through the 5th house, that you might be seeing some changes in career that feel more demanding and that are sort of sending you in a different direction career-wise. Ultimately, it's going to be for the good. So hang on to that knowledge, my friends. If you're seeing sort of business or professional development going in a direction you don't want it to take, know that ultimately it's going to be for a change in career that's for the best. You might have more burdens in career, you might have more demands in career, but you can navigate this. You have what it takes, Leo. I'll also point out for my Leo friends, this is very interesting to me, that the 5th house has to do with back and spine and heart issues. 5th house is connected to those things. Hello, what did I say in the intro, and why are you seeing the astro wheel, my little astro wheel being utilized for this video? I am having trouble with my back, and here I'm a Leo sun. So, this square aspect, there's a number of reasons why. I'll fill you in. Saturn is right on my Jupiter right now as well. Jupiter rules hips, and also the sun is in opposition, Pluto's in opposition to my natal sun as well. So spine is ruled by the sun. So yes, lucky me. But this is, you can't make this up. Astrology is so real, and the astrology deniers, I wish they'd really look into it and dig deep with it, because once you do, you can't deny it's real. You can't deny it's real. But yes, just forewarned, my beautiful Leo friends, this energy of Jupiter-Saturn aspecting the 5th house can affect your back and spine as well. So don't overdo it, at the gym. Take it steady, take it slow, and just do what you ordinarily do, what your body's used to. Don't push it beyond its usual limitations at this time. Look, this is an energy that can bring burnout that comes from not having enough joy and happiness. Too many responsibilities. That's something as a Leo that I've been relating to lately, and so I've actually had to have the week off work because of my council job, because of my hips and so forth, and I've just slept because I have been exhausted. And I'm like, where is this exhaustion coming from? Burnout from not having enough playfulness in my life. It has been a really heavy year. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. It's been beautiful because I got married and everything, but there's just been so many problems and responsibilities to navigate as well. This energy is bringing us to a point where we just feel like we can't do it anymore. The lack of joy, we're feeling so overburdened that we start to crumble. Just know, my beautiful Leo friends, if you can push through this and be responsible and, in my case, I've activated my sick leave at work and using that to have a rest and a break and to honor the fact that my body is burnt out and so forth. My body and soul are a little bit burnt out. Then if you can honor that and be responsible about that and do the right thing by yourself, legally, to have a rest, to have a break, then it's going to help you in the long term for sure. So we need to be able to make compromises, be responsible and stoic. This is not the time for pushing through. If you end up with like a hip injury or a spine injury, or you're burning out and you're just like, I've just got to muscle through it, I've just got to push through it, well, then ultimately there could be problems in the long run, Leo. So I just encourage you, honor your body, honor how it's feeling, honor your soul. And if it's feeling like there's just not enough fun in life and I'm burnt out, you need to honor that and make compromises in your life in some way to keep as much balance as possible. Saturn, Jupiter square aspecting, expressing through the fifth house makes life feel more demanding and more unbalanced. So you need to do what you can to mitigate that and to keep things as balanced as you're able to. I just want to encourage you to do this. Now, the other thing that the fifth house rules is our children. So if you're not experiencing this, it could be that your children are experiencing these things. And if that's the case, Leo, you need to take care of your children. If you've got adult children, check in with them, grown-up children. Make sure that they're doing okay, that they're not pushing, too hard and, about to blow a gasket kind of thing. Make sure that they are, managing as well. Be there for your children. If you've got little kids, perhaps encourage them to utilize their creativity or express any sort of issues that they're having through some sort of creativity, because the fifth house is a house of creativity as well. And try and create more fun for your children. If your children, like you've got teenage kids, they're going through exams in high school or anything like that, try and make things a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun. Take the pressure off for them right now. Check in with your kids, because this energy can be expressing through their lives and you might not know it. They may not be filling you in on how they're really feeling. So be a good parent, be there for them at this time by helping to make their life a little bit lighter, a little bit more joyful, using this astrological knowledge as well, Leo. And you're good at making things fun, Leo. You're good at bringing joy to life, especially for other people. So please, utilize that capability that most Leo people have. Yes, the good news is, and I might have already mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. Yes, there's some challenges here, but this is also the house of karmic rewards. So my lovely Leos, if you are able to be mature and endure, knowing that these problems, they're not going to be long lasting, they're not going to be permanent kinds of problems, they're just something to be navigated as part of a 20-year cycle of Jupiter-Saturn energy, which I spoke about in the introduction. If you can handle this by going with the flow and just taking it one step at a time, doing what you can to create more balance, if you can do all these things that I've spoken of, then out the other side, as we leave this energy behind and we begin to move more towards a trine between Jupiter and Saturn, you're going to get reward, you're going to get blessing. This is not it is not an energy where we're going to be stuck forever. It's a blip that's causing us to sort of tweak things, refine things, and ultimately make things better in the long run. So even though a lot of what I've spoken about is heavy and difficult, and we have to weigh things up, very responsibly now with this energy, I just want to tell you, my friends, if you can do so, blessing is waiting for you on the other side. Well, thank you, Leo. And now moving on to beautiful Cancer energy. Thank you, my Cancer friends, for being here. This week we are talking about the square from Jupiter to Saturn, but I'm using something a bit different. Vedic astrology techniques. And Vedic astrology aspects formed from Jupiter and Saturn mean that Sagittarius is the sign where their energies are activating in a combined way. Spirit has told me to talk about this rather than the usual way we would interpret things in Western astrology. So With that in mind, Cancer, Sagittarius is your 6th house, and this is the house where there might be some of this Jupiter-Saturn square expressing in your life. This is the house of our daily work, what we do to make money. It's a money house. It's an Arthur house in Vedic astrology, so it does have an association with wealth matters. And so there might be some restrictions and obstacles in your work life that you're experiencing. Some legalities that need to be overcome before you can really work and make the money that you want to make. Maybe there's some governmental things, some bureaucracy that you need to actually sort out to be able to carry on with the job that you're doing. Some restrictions and obstacles in that way. This is a combination. Saturn is the government, and Jupiter, a Saturn square, can mean that you have aspirations and goals for more wealth and prosperity, but the government is stepping in and making it hell, as they often like to do. Not that I'm against governments, I think they're necessary, but it's rare to find a good one, that's for sure. So here we are in the 6th house that has to do with daily work, so there can be restrictions and obstacles. There can also feel like life is just unbalanced at the moment. You're working too hard and you're feeling unsupported in your work life, like you're the one making all the money and paying all the bills and putting all the food on the table, and you're exhausted. It can feel heavy that way. It can feel demanding that way. Daily life is just full of pressure at this time. I've got some good news at the end of this reading, my friends, so please don't be like, oh my God, I have to switch off because I just can't handle hearing all this negativity. It is a hard aspect, and it's playing out for the middle of August, but there is hope. Stick with me, we'll get there. So this is also a house of court cases, the 6th house, and there can be some minor legal difficulties. If you're currently going through a court case, you might have to, go back and gather more information, and there might be a hold up to the outcome of the court case. This is not necessarily an energy that instigates a court case. This is more likely something that has been going on, maybe something from the past. Saturn is things from the past coming back and needing to be sorted out, needing to be refined. Maybe you had a court settlement in a divorce case, a couple of years ago, but it was based on certain circumstances in your life, certain financial conditions that just are not the case now, so it might need to be readdressed, and you might need to reopen up an old court case and get some changes made to alimony and things like that. That's the kind of thing we're talking about, something from the past needing to be given some attention. The 6th house is problems. The 6th house is things that are out of harmony, things that are unequal or not balanced, and problems that need to be rectified. And so the square between Saturn and Jupiter actually has to do with needing to revisit problems and sort things out. And I've talked about court cases and alimony and divorces and all that sort of thing that might have some need to revisit to sort them out, but other problems too. Maybe an old health issue flares up. An old issue like Mars is also making an aspect here to your 6th house as well, I'll point out, Cancer. So it could be an old inflammation flares up again and you've got to sort of get treatment for it or deal with it. It could be that maybe some dietary issue, something with your digestion needs some attention. I'll just point out, if you're having digestive issues, forgiveness is a wonderful tool to help digestive issues. If you're talking about metaphysical influences, of course you need to eat properly and make sure that you're not eating fake foods and stuff like that and too much junk and all that kind of stuff, but also forgiveness is important for digestive issues, I'll point out, Cancer. So yeah, there's needing to sort of sort out problems, rectify things. Could be just cleaning as well. Maybe you have a problem, let's say, with mold in your house and it's come back to haunt you. You've got to sort it all out. This is sort of cleaning, issues related to sort of too much clutter, too much dirt, too much, accumulation of water or something like that needs to be just sorted out. Now, the thing is, my beautiful Cancer friends, this is this is an energy that is not just a random sort of annual event or anything like that. This is actually part of a 20-year cycle of Saturn and Jupiter. And remember, they made a conjunction in Aquarius, which happens to be your 8th house, back in 2020. So there's a need as part of this 20-year cycle to push through some obstacles and some limitations regarding something that you started back in 2020. To push through those obstacles now, to make some compromises, to go with the flow. This is happening in mutable signs. Go with the flow and be easy about, not too attached to things, sort of easy come, easy go. If you can do that, my Cancer friends, and then you can get to the other side of this energy, and you'll be part of what the next aspect that is forming in this cycle, which is a Saturn-Jupiter trine, and that's when the rewards come. So if you can sort out your problems now, make your compromises, settle that alimony case or that court case that needs revisiting or whatever, sort out your health issues, try and find solutions now. If you can be mature and stoic about pushing through those pressures at work and those restrictions and blockages at work, if you can do all that with the knowledge that good things are around the corner, then you're going to get the blessing, because this is actually an energy of tension that is building towards an energy of great reward. And so we have to keep the big picture in mind, Cancer. There is a big picture at play here with this cycle. Push through, sort out the issues, dot the I's, cross the T's, and you're going to find that blessing will lie waiting around the corner for you. This is the good news. So yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's a difficult time. Life feels more demanding and unbalanced and unsupported right now. But I want you to know the promise is there. Okay, we can get through this and we can have really good outcomes out the other side, Cancer. Thank you so much, my beautiful Cancer friends. Now, it's time for us to have a chat with our Gemini friends. Now, a lot of Gemini people will have been under the impression that the energy of Jupiter-Saturn in its square aspect is playing out through your sign. Well, I've done things a little bit differently here. Spirit has laid on me for the last few weeks that when it comes to talking about this aspect, I need to talk about the Vedic aspects of Jupiter, and also Mars for that matter, and Saturn. And so that's what I'm doing. And Jupiter and Saturn, the only house that they are both triggering together at this time is Sagittarius. My Gemini friends, that's where they're stirring up the energy, in the sign of Sagittarius, which is your 7th house, Gemini. So this is where I believe the energy of Jupiter-Saturn in its square aspect is going to be expressing. So this is the house of everybody opposite you, the public, other people, your audience, your clients, your spouse, anybody else who is of significance and importance to your life journey is seen from the 7th house. And so there might be some restrictions and some obstacles and even some moral dilemmas in your dealings with such people. For example, you might have done a big advertising campaign, Gemini, to try and get more clients, and it just didn't seem to work. There's nobody coming in. You're feeling like there's no new clients coming along. Your old clients are doing very well, thank you very much, and don't need to come visit you. There can be frustrations there. There can be restrictions there. That's just an example. It could be that your spouse, your partner, is experiencing this energy, and their work life might be feeling rather heavy at the moment, Gemini, rather imbalanced and unsupported, and they're starting to burn out. They're just carrying too much responsibility, too many demands. That can be an expression as well, that your significant other, a business partner, a marriage partner, is feeling unsupported. So that's actually a call to action, Gemini. You need to get on board and with your business partner or your marriage partner and be there for them right now. Just as you would want them to be there for you if you were feeling overwhelmed and burdened and like life was full of heaviness at this time. So be there for your partners. Also, there can be moral dilemmas with other people, as I mentioned. So that could take many shapes and forms, but it could be a moral dilemma regarding beliefs. Sagittarius is very much connected to belief systems. So your belief systems might be very, very different to your business partner's belief systems, or a client's belief systems, or your audience's belief systems, and it creates some clashes. It creates some judgment that is not helpful. So try and keep balanced, try and keep harmonious, and remember, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, Gemini. And you might be dealing with some dogmatism right now, either yours or somebody else's. Try and be mature, make compromises, and be stoic about these sorts of things at this time. And I'll talk about why that's important towards the end of this reading for you. What else is happening with a Jupiter square to Saturn through this energy? Well, agreements and contracts are not getting the thumbs up at this time. I wouldn't be signing anything if this was me, Gemini. If you can manage it, I know some people deal with contracts and negotiations as part of their everyday job, but if you can put it off for a week or two, you'll be in a much better position. This is a difficult energy for getting good results out of contracts and agreements. And even negotiations can be somewhat difficult and fraught with frustration and sort of explosive energy. So any negotiating, any discussions of, trying to navigate through a problem with other people, if you can postpone those negotiations as well, not a bad idea too, because this is a challenging energy. And unless you're extremely mature and responsible and can handle those sorts of situations very, very well, it's probably better to postpone such things. Now, our approach to social situations is represented by the 7th house as well. And so it's actually a poor time to be sort of, like I've just said, making negotiations or dealing with difficulties in social settings. So, trying to sort things out with a social group and stuff, not a good time for that either. I would also suggest that you might be wanting to escape the burdens of life at this time, but there is a blockage or a restriction coming perhaps from an authority figure or like a governmental figure. It could be that a blockage or a restriction is coming from a partner and you can't escape. Maybe your partner's feeling sick, maybe your partner's not well and you have to keep working and you can't sort of quit that day job that you're hoping to quit just yet, Gemini. There's a lot of burdens of life as you've probably got some responsibilities to other people that you need to meet, and so that can be playing out now with this Jupiter Saturn square. You can't quite escape those responsibilities because other people are depending on you, other people are leaning on you right now. There's also an energy here. This is the house of your maternal grandmother and your paternal grandfather, and if those people are still present in your life, you're very blessed if that's the case. If that's so, then they might be experiencing some sort of pressure, too much work, legal difficulties, and problems. And so it would pay to check in with your maternal grandmother or paternal grandfather, make sure they're doing okay. How can you help? How can you be there for them? It's a time for supporting those particular people also in your life as well. Your married life in general, now that's what we see generally through the 7th house. Married life can feel full of problems and be very much needing your attention. Married life might just feel more demanding. And sometimes we have seasons like that. We have seasons where our marriages are just flourishing like the beautiful garden in spring. And then marriage can also go through seasons where it feels like winter. And this is, unfortunately, Saturn rules winter. Saturn Jupiter square can make this season in a married life feel heavy, burdensome, problematic. So knowing that allows you to actually do something about it. What can you do to sort of counteract that heaviness, my friends, in a relationship? Maybe you could book a weekend away together somewhere. Try to get back to your roots, back in touch with why you fell in love in the first place, and re-energize that. Maybe you could, Saturn is things from the past. Maybe you could go to somewhere that, like you had your first date, and revisit those sorts of places to try and sort of connect with who you once were in the past as a couple. So marriage in general can be really just heavily affected by this. It's not an energy for divorce. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's one of those seasons where you might need to consciously act to bring more joy and love and light back into your marriage or committed partnership. But the good news is, my friends, that problems are rarely, if ever, long-lasting with this transit. In fact, this transit is actually part of a larger cycle. It's part of a 20-year cycle of Saturn and Jupiter. And as such, if you can be responsible, if you can make compromises and be enduring and stoic, and even because this is in mutable signs, if you can go with the flow with this energy now, then you're going to be able to come out the other side as we move into a Jupiter-Saturn trine, and you're going to receive blessing. But only if you can navigate this heavy time, this restrictive time, this problematic time, if you can navigate this wisely and well with consciousness, then the rewards are waiting for you out the other side. And the rewards can look like success in business dealings, contracts that bring you blessing. It can look like a rise in clients and a greater audience. It can look like a happier marriage, a happier business partnership. It can look like more success in relationships if you're a single person. This can actually look like creating a relationship down the track that feels satisfying and mature and beautiful, actually. So, there's blessing out the other side of this if you can handle all the challenges well. And I know people often sort of complain to me, oh, you didn't talk about my singleness. You only talked about marriage when I speak of the 7th house. So I'll just address singleness here. This is actually an energy, provided you've got other things going on in your chart personally. This, remember, is a general personal read, not a specific personal read for you. So take it as it resonates. But this is a combination that can stir up the energy of partnership. If you're a single person, it can bring somebody into your life. But unless there are other helpful aspects forming as well, then you might meet somebody that you fall in love with, but there might be a blockage or restriction to something manifesting. For example, you go to a conference for work, and there is the love of your life. And the conference lasts 3 days. You spend the whole time together, and you're just like, where have you been all my life? And then you go back to your city, and they go back to their city. And how are you going to be together? How are you going to make this work long term? There's a restriction, there's a blockage, there's a moral dilemma here. Who's going to move? Is someone going to move, or is this just one of those things that fling for a time and then it's over? There can be that sort of energy that comes from this. So yes, it can trigger relationship if you're a single person, but there's likely to be some dilemma, some demands, some obstacles that you're going to have to negotiate with this as well. But remember that if you can navigate things and be responsible and make compromises at this time, my beautiful Gemini friends, then out the other side, as we start to move towards a trine with Saturn and Jupiter, then good results can manifest and promising results can come. So that's what I've got to share with my beautiful Gemini friends. Moving along. Now it's time for our lovely Taurus rising, Taurus sun, and Taurus moon friends. Well, Taurus, we are looking at the energy of Saturn in a square to Jupiter. But in Vedic astrology, Saturn and Jupiter in these positions are currently both only aspecting this house, Sagittarius, which happens to be your 8th house. And that being the case, Spirit has put on me to talk to this energy above other combinations of energy at this time. So, beautiful Taurus, this is the house of support from others. And by that I mean financial support, moral support, emotional support, physical support, things like inheritances, wills, payouts, windfalls, material goods that other people support you with. And you might have been counting on support from somebody else at this time, Taurus, but there might be a restriction or a blockage to that support. Let's say that you're a Taurus who receives some sort of alimony or child support or something like that. This is the house of your partner's money. And your partner, ex-partner, ex-husband, ex-wife, whatever, your partner, ex-partner, is having some sort of dilemmas or obstacles or, demands on their ability to pay you or to give you that support. So there might be a need for you to be a bit stoic and responsible, to make compromises and be patient. That's what this energy is all about. Saturn square Jupiter requires us to be patient and make compromises, to be a little bit gracious and a little bit kind, I've got to say, Taurus. Understanding that, I know sometimes people shirk their responsibilities in this scenario like that I'm giving you. But there's also times, legitimate times, when people are just not able to make ends meet. And so I just want to highlight this for my Taurus friends out here. Be aware that Saturn square Jupiter can be placing some very heavy demands on your partner's resources at this time. And so, there's some difficulties there. Be patient, be mature, be gracious as much as you're able to, knowing that in time, as this energy passes, your partner will be able to pay you or make up the differences. We need to be gracious under this energy for sure. But it is, if you're counting on support from somebody else, in whatever way, I've talked about a financial situation there, but there's also other things, if you're counting on emotional support from somebody else, it might feel like it's missing now. It might feel like you're just not supported. Maybe you're married and your partner is just not able to be there for you. Maybe they've had to take a job out in the mines or something like that, and you're back in Sydney and they're out in, the boonies working in the mines, and you need emotional help, and they're just not there because they can't be. Not because they don't love you, but because they can't be emotionally, physically there to support you. So this is a time when the things that we lean on others for might be missing from our lives, Taurus, and that can make us feel a bit unbalanced and unsupported and make it feel like life is so demanding at the moment. Know that this is a passing energy, and these problems that I'm talking about here rarely, if ever, will be long-lasting with this transit. They will pass. You've got to keep that in mind, and you've got to act with the maturity and the responsibility that this combination of energies is calling you to act with. Only if you act with responsibility, maturity, stoicism, flowing with things, this is mutable energy, being able to make compromises, only if you act with those qualities will you get the rewards that are waiting out the other side of this energy. If you don't act that way, if you act selfishly, if you act like a little spoilt child stomping its foot and having a tantrum, then the rewards, the karmic rewards, don't arrive. You've got to remember, my friends, Saturn is the Lord of Karma, and he's heavily involved in this combination of energies. And he is not so much Jupiter, but Saturn is the planet that gives you your just rewards. You do a good job, you get big rewards from Saturn. You act like a little child, spoilt brat, you get the reward that Saturn will give for that. And it's probably not something you would want. Let's talk a little bit more about the 8th house. The 8th house is crisis energy, things that happen all of a sudden. And you might find that you're in some sort of moral dilemma all of a sudden, trying to make a decision and a choice that can be very much challenged at this time. And I say that, and this is the first time I've talked about the fact that Venus is making, not so much in Vedic aspects, but in Western aspects, Venus is making a square to Sagittarius. Venus is the planet of choice and being able to choose, and there can be some restrictions and blockages in being able to choose. Remember, the 8th house has to do with the hidden realms, secret realms. And so there might be something going on, maybe an affair or something going on in the background, behind the scenes, a secret that you're keeping, and you've got to face a moral dilemma about what do you do about this secret sort of underhanded dark energy that you are currently dealing with. Some of you might be facing that. This isn't for everybody. Take it as it resonates. But moral dilemmas regarding something secretive or criminal or mafia-related sort of activity, 8th house rules, all those things, might be being brought to bear upon you now, and you have to make a choice. Be careful, because judgment under this energy of Saturn-Jupiter square can be very unsound at this time. So, if you need to, it's hard to, because this is the house of getting support from other people and it's being restricted and blocked. But if you need to, try and find somebody who you trust to give you some good counsel at this time. Now, some of you might be dealing with legal inheritances and wills and payouts and so forth. Bureaucracy can be very irritating and punitive. There can be legal difficulties with wills and inheritances at this time. Just hang in there for the ride, surf the waves, my friends. Eventually it will sort itself out, but at this time there might be delays because of some legal problems and so forth. A lot of you Taurus people are just going to want to escape, because the burdens of life at this time might be just feeling too heavy. You might be feeling like, you're in a situation of crisis or sort of chronic problems because of work pressures and obligations and so forth. Try to see that, this is an energy that you may be getting transformed because of this. You might be maturing because of this. You might be up-leveling because of this, but you're probably not going to see it at this moment. It's something that will come with time. But yes, these extra pressures and obligations and extra responsibilities that Saturn-Jupiter square is bringing ultimately will transform you and change you and help you rebuild your life. So see that it's a long game that you're playing. It's not just what's happening in August. This is something, not that problems are going to last forever. They're not. They may only last for the duration of a couple of weeks in August and then be over. But the maturity that they bring you, the responsibility that it brings you, is going to help you rebuild your life into something bigger and better and greater. This is a transformative energy, and this aspect is going to help empower the transformation in your own life at a psychological level, but also in your physical reality. Big changes, fast changes, dramatic events, and definitely getting out of a rut is what's going to come out of this, getting out of a stuck situation. But it's going to come after you've pushed through the problems, carried your burdens, dealt with the legalities, and been responsible. Just on that, as we wrap this up, my beautiful friends, this is also the house that has to do with career changes, according to Vedic astrology. You might be wanting to change careers now, wanting to sort of change direction, and it will come eventually. But you're going to need, as I said, to push through some problems at this point in time this August in order to move into the career, perhaps of your dreams, because the 8th house has to do with changes in career. So my friends, this is a 20-year cycle of Saturn-Jupiter that we are in the middle of now. It began in 2020, and it's working its way out through this 20-year cycle now. We're at the sort of the quarter-way mark at this point in time, and that's exciting. What it means is that if you can endure these problems and these obstacles, as I've said, then out the other side, we're going to move into a Jupiter-Saturn trine, and that's when the rewards come. That's when the blessing comes, because of how you handle the issues and the problems that are playing out now. If you handle them well, the rewards and the blessing come back into your life. And I am so excited to share that with you, my beautiful Taurus friends. So hang in there. There is purpose. There is method in this cyclical madness. You've got this. Thank you, Taurus. Moving along now to Aries. Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon people. The energy of Saturn in a square with Jupiter, these two making a square aspect now, is actually playing out through the sign of Sagittarius, because Spirit has put upon me to talk about the aspects of Jupiter and Saturn in the Vedic system, and where they are both stirring up certain energy. And it happens to be here in the Sagittarius house, your 9th house. So my beautiful Aries friends, this is where you're going to experience and see playing out this square aspect and its difficult energy. So there can be restrictions and obstacles placed on 9th house things. You might feel like your life has no purpose right now, like you don't know what direction you really want to take things. What is going to give your life meaning? It can feel a little bit lost on you. Maybe you've been doing a university course for a couple of years, my beautiful Aries friends, and you get to a point you're like, why am I even doing this? I don't think I want to do dentistry. I don't think I actually am interested in being a lawyer. Why have I wasted my time? You feel a bit lost. You know, there might be a bit of a moral dilemma about where to next with this energy as well. What decisions should you make? What plans for the future should you make, given that, you know, there can be some really big changes going on with this energy. Can I just say, at this time, it's probably not the best time to be making choices and judgments about your future and your purpose and your university studies and everything, because our judgment's a bit unsound under this energy. We're kind of vacillating between positivity and negativity. We feel a bit confused. It can be challenging. It can be challenging. So it's not really a time for making very big, important decisions about life purpose and higher education and so forth. So sit tight, wait till the energy passes, and then see where you're at, say 2 to 3 weeks time. In the Vedic system, this is also the house of our fortune and luck. The 5th house is the house of speculations, but in Vedic astrology, this is the house of our fortune and luck. And for our Aries friends, you might be feeling even that life is just lost its luster, that luck has flown out the door, and that you're not lucky at this time. I just want to encourage you, this is not an energy that's going to be here with you forever. It's a passing cycle. So don't feel like Lady Luck has disappeared, you know. Things might be going wrong, things might be feeling more demanding and unbalanced right now, but it's not going to last forever. So when it comes to luck and fortune, you know, buying that lottery ticket or counting on a lucky windfall or a lucky break is probably not a good idea under this energy because of this combination. There can be this is a house of that has to do with high court, Supreme Court matters. And if you are somebody who's dealing with a situation like that in the High Court or the Supreme Court, there can be some legal difficulties. And the bureaucracy of going through that process can be just driving you up the wall right now. I just want to encourage you to persevere. Just put one foot in front of the other, trusting that out the other side, it's all going to be okay. It really is. This is the 5th house from the 5th, and it has therefore to do with grandchildren. Now, if you're somebody, an Aries person who has grandchildren, check in on them, because this energy of Jupiter Saturn can be putting a lot of pressure on your grandchildren. They can be sort of having some problems that might need your love and care as a grandparent. They might be just feeling like life is very demanding and depressing. So reach out to your grandchildren now, my beautiful Aries friends. They may actually need you quite significantly at this time. This is the house also of our second life partner. And in Vedic astrology, they think it's the house of marriage in general, but my research has led me to find that it is actually connected to our second committed partnership. And so if you are married for the second time, there can be some sort of heaviness on your spouse, you know, so do check in with your spouse. If they're feeling a bit unbalanced or unsupported, or that the demands of life are really bringing them down, make sure that you're there to sort of lift them up or care for them or love them more at this time. Focus in on your second marriage partner because this is putting pressure on them. The 9th house is the house of our beliefs that have to do with speaking our truth, finding our freedom, finding our liberation, finding meaning in our sufferings. And so of all the signs here this week, Aries, I want to encourage you to do some philosophical thinking. Look for the big picture here. Think about why are you dealing with these problems that are cropping up in your life and the obstacles that you're trying to navigate around. Try to find meaning in your sufferings. Use your philosophical self, because if you can do this, you're going to come up with some very powerful eureka moments, deep understandings, aha, light bulb experiences that make life make more sense, that give you some sort of prophetic even insight into what you're doing. So I talked in the beginning of this reading about finding meaning, finding purpose. I want you to take time out. You might even like to take a little trip. This is kind of a restless energy. Take a little trip, have a little holiday if you can, or a weekend away, go out into the countryside or something like that, and ponder and think about the problems that are being experienced, and try to find meaning in your sufferings. And if you can do that, it can be very, very empowering for you. Another thing that the ninth house has associations with is visas, immigration, and relocation to a foreign country. Aries, if this is you and you're wanting to move, then there might be some restrictions on that now. The bureaucracy might be just driving you up the wall. There can be some legal difficulties, some obstructions. I want to encourage you just to push through those obstructions one at a time, one step at a time. Don't get too perturbed or upset about it. Just do what you need to do. Provide the documents you need to provide, knowing that eventually it will all be worthwhile. Because this is an energy, as I spoke about in the introduction, for blessing ultimately, but there's obstacles that need to be overcome. So don't give up, keep going. If you are thinking about applying for a visa, it's not a good time to do that. I wouldn't do it under this energy. I'd give it a couple of weeks. Once September sort of rolls around, you're probably better off to apply for visas and immigration sort of paperwork. But if you're currently already dealing with them, then the way to handle it is to make compromises, be responsible, be dutiful, provide what is needed, and the outcome can be actually quite a blessing. So finally, this is also the realm in the chart that has to do with ceremonies and celebrations. And I just want to say that if you can endure through these legal difficulties and bureaucracy and difficult challenges about purpose and meaning in life, if you can handle this well, ultimately the reward will come. This is a 20-year cycle of Saturn and Jupiter that began in 2020. And what this period in this 20-year cycle is all about is making sure that we cross the T's and dot the I's, that we do things properly, that we iron out all the creases and the challenges and the difficulties so that things flow better for us and manifest better for us. And after we get through this square, we're then going to be moving into sort of in 2025, 2026, into a trine between Saturn and Jupiter when the rewards come. But the rewards only come if you've navigated this challenging energy in a mature, responsible way. So the more that you do that now, and I'd also just add to that, ninth house in Vedic astrology has to do with charity. The more graciousness, kindness, compromises that you can make and thoughtful endeavors that you can undertake, Aries, the more blessing that this can actually bring you in the long run when we get to that trine stage. Thank you, my beautiful Aries, rising sun and moon friends. Now, my lovely fellow Pisceans, what a heavy time we've been having with Saturn in our first house. Ugh, can't wait for it to leave, but then I don't want it to leave either, because when it leaves, it's going into Aries. Oh my God, where it's debilitated in our second house. So we've got to make the most of what we've got in the moment, don't we, Pisces? Pisces, we're looking this week at the square from Saturn under the arrow here to Jupiter. But in Vedic astrology, the energy of the Saturn and Jupiter is actually playing out through Sagittarius. In Vedic aspects, Sagittarius is the only house or sign where this energy is stirring from both these planets is stirring up. Sorry, I was stumbling over my words then. Jupiter's aspects and Saturn's aspects together are only co-aspecting Sagittarius. And so that is the realm of the chart that I want to talk about, with the Saturn-Jupiter square expressing its energy into the 10th house. You won't hear other astrologers talking about this. Spirit has kind of put on my heart to talk about this combination this week. And this is the house, my beautiful friends, of our parents-in-law. And so I encourage you, my friends, to check in with your parents-in-law. You know, are they struggling at the moment? Is life really demanding on them? Do they feel that they're unsupported? Well, check in. Make sure that your parents-in-law are going okay. This energy of restriction and blockage and obstacle might be expressing in their lives. Can also be in Western astrology, there's the house of the father. And our father might be struggling at this time. So be there for your father as well. Your father might be having some obstacles in their work life or restrictions, or they might be facing some sort of moral dilemma that you can support and help them with. This is also the house that it's one of the Arthur houses in Vedic astrology, and therefore it's a wealth house. And so there, for some of our Pisces friends, it can feel like, money is just going down the toilet. Like you're working really hard, you're doing all you can and carrying your responsibilities, but the money just keeps having to disappear out the door. I hate it when I'm in that sort of energy. It's so hard. We want to save, we want to get ahead, we want to have some money for our future or a special thing, and it's just like, oh, I've got to fix this, or my child needs this medical care, or that, this is what we're talking about. An Arthur house where there's blockages and restrictions and demands upon our finances. Not only that, but the energy of the 10th house, my beautiful Pisces friends, is to do with our career and our worldly success, what we're putting out in the world to gain recognition. And, I'll use myself as an example, being a Pisces person. I'm putting this video out in the world. That's something I do, putting myself out there. In this case, I've certainly been restricted and blocked from putting myself out there in the usual manner because I'm not well enough to sit in my chair for this length of video. And so I can't put my face out there in the world to be seen. I have to do it in a different way. There's been a blockage. There's been an obstacle that I've had to overcome. Interestingly enough, Jupiter rules both Pisces and Sagittarius, Pisces being the house of the body. And that in this case, my body has blocked me from being able to put myself out in the world the way I usually do. So that's an example. What do you do? What do you put out there in the world to gain recognition and success, to work with your career and your aims and goals in life? Well, you might be feeling that there's some kind of blockage in that realm for you as well, my friends, my beautiful Piscean friends. So it can feel burdensome, it can feel heavy, but I just encourage you to use our beautiful mutable energy and just flow with what is. Take it as it comes, ride those waves like the Kelly Slaters that we all are, or we all long to be anyway. This is the house of status and fame. Now, you might find, my beautiful Pisces friends, that there's some judgment being directed at you at this time. You're putting yourself out there. You might have a limited bit of fame or some sort of status, and somebody's criticizing you. Somebody is pointing a finger at you for what you do, saying, oh, you don't know what you're doing and you don't do it right, and it's a critical energy. And so I hate that sort of stuff so much. So hang in there, Pisces. We've got to endure this as best we can if that's what you're experiencing. Authority figures and government figures are seen through their 10th house. And my dear beloved Pisces, my God, this energy of Saturn square Jupiter brings problems from the authority figures, from the government, bureaucracy. It becomes punitive, it becomes irritating. There can be even like some legal difficulties, triggered by some sort of boss or governmental figure or something. Look, that's the way governments are, unfortunately. I have yet to see the perfect government in the world. I don't think it exists, but governments are important. So I just encourage you, my beautiful friends, to deal with it as best you can. Just be responsible, be stoic, dot the I's, cross the T's, deal with things and follow the rules and regulations as much as you're able to with morality and integrity about what you're doing, and just push through this energy with as much patience and stoicism as you can find. This is also the realm of the chart. I've talked about putting ourselves out there in the world, but it's also has to do with career success and what we need to do to gain respect and success. And in order to gain respect and success, leadership, public visibility, and public approval, we've got to be stoic now. We've got to address problems in our career that demand our attention. We need to try and, as much as we're able to, balance life now. And I would just suggest many of you Pisces people are probably needing to balance work-life balance itself. You may have been burning the candle at both ends, Pisces, and have burnt yourself out. And I encourage you to find ways to sort of make sure you're not overdoing it and getting exhausted and being run down, because the universe will make you stop if you don't stop on your own account. You don't want to have to stop because you've got sick. You want to stop because you're taking a holiday, or you're taking a break, or you're taking that leave that you've been accumulating at work. I just encourage you to bring, if you haven't got much work-life balance at the moment, bring it. You've got to create it intentionally and consciously now. There can be extra work, extra pressures, extra obligations, in your career that just make you feel like overwhelmed. You're probably wanting to escape, Pisces, run away and start a whole new life somewhere else. But at this time, with Saturn square Jupiter expressing through the 10th house, just the physical burdens of life are just too heavy. The obligations of responsibility and duty, parenting, the obligations of career just are stuff that you can't walk away from right now. You need to give it attention. And that creates this push-pull energy of how do I have time for me as well as everything that I need to do in the world. So that's another thing that we need to be aware of. One more thing is that our partner's family and home, so our business partner or our marriage partner, is also seen. Their home and their family are seen from this realm of the chart. So I said that, your parents-in-law, but also just their family in general, their grandparents, their, generally speaking, their siblings and so forth. Be there for your partner's family right now, my beautiful Pisces friends, because they're probably feeling the pressure of this energy as well. Now, I'm just making sure I've covered everything for our Pisces friends. Yeah, look, this is part of a 20-year cycle, Pisces, beginning in 2020 when we had the grand conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. Now we're at the first quarter of that cycle. And there's obstacles, as I've described. There's demands. There's problems that need to be addressed, sorted out, rectified. And only when we rectify them and deal with those issues responsibly, flowing with things like the surfers that we are, compromising and being stoic, only when we do that well, can we then move into the reward period, and can we then receive from the reward period, which is Saturn-Jupiter trine that will come next in this cycle. So, I gave an example in the introduction about my Royal Stars Academy being what I'm putting out there in the world, my 10th house of career that began in 2020 when Jupiter and Saturn were conjunct. And so I fully expect from this energy that, I'm wanting to record videos for the next level of the Royal Stars Academy. I'm wanting to keep it growing and make the changes that I need to make. But I'm fully aware that this is a time when there's going to be blockages to doing that. And I might have to deal with certain issues with the platform that I'm using, or demands from the tax authorities regarding how that business is structured, and so on and so on. I'm fully aware that this is one of those things that needs to be pushed through. For example, knowing that after this square aspect has been gone through and I've refined my Royal Stars Academy that began in 2020 under this grand conjunction, and if I've refined my Royal Stars Academy, then I move into a period in the coming couple of years, Jupiter trine Saturn, and the rewards pay off. So that's an illustration of how I'm viewing this and working with this and looking at the big picture of this. And I encourage you to do the same, Pisces. What are you working on out there in the world that needs some refining and some tweaking and modification in order to receive the rewards that are promised out the other side of this energy? Trust me, it is coming, and I know, my beautiful Pisces friends, that you will handle this season well, leading to a brighter outcome and a big future. Thank you, beautiful Pisces. Now, moving on to Aquarius rising, sun and moon people. The energy of Saturn square to Jupiter is actually playing out through the sign of Sagittarius. And we've got to this conclusion, I talk about it in the introduction, by using Vedic astrology aspects. And so the one realm of the chart that both Saturn and Jupiter are stirring up the energy of is Sagittarius, your 11th house. And Spirit has put on my heart to talk about that this week. Jupiter-Saturn square is bringing some restrictions and some obstacles into the realm of your 11th house of gainfulness. So you might be working your little tush off right now, my beautiful Aquarius friends, and putting plenty of, projects out there and getting all, contracts and deals and doing whatever you do to make wealth in the world, and it's just not getting traction and you're feeling frustrated. It's certainly not the time to launch a big project because the results you're wanting from it will just not manifest. It's a time for enduring, keeping on, putting one foot in front of the other regarding your major goals and ambitions and desires. If you want to see, rewards and gains or notoriety from what you're doing, you need to be prepared at this stage, Aquarius, to push through the demands. You might be required to do more work on something. Maybe you're going to launch some sort of a platform and expecting to get a lot of followers or a lot of sign-ups or something like that. And, your computer programmer comes back and says, well, this needs tweaking and that needs tweaking and we can't launch it yet because of X, Y, Z. And there's those restrictions and obstacles. There are those demands that you're going to need to put your attention to and the problems that you're going to need to sort out before you can get the rewards and the gains. So there's a hold-up, there's fluctuations, there's restrictions and demands that are happening with what you're putting out there in the world and the ability to get remuneration from them. So this is also the house of networking, and certainly the ability to connect with, affluent people, be with benefactors, network and, go and meet people or expand your audience is certainly had cold water thrown on it. There's a kibosh put on it. You are not going to be able to create greater, bigger networks at this time for about 2 weeks. So, going to that marketing seminar or whatever where you're hoping to sort of, hand your business card around, probably not much worth in doing that. It's potentially a bit of a waste of time. You might grow, you might expand personally because of it, but you mightn't increase your networks as you might hope. So just be aware of that. The ability to achieve your goals and ambitions is just more demanding now. You've got to put in more time, more energy, more legwork with your networks and maintaining networks and with your goals and your dreams. This is the 8th house from the 4th. And the 8th house from the 4th actually represents changes to the life of our mother. So it could be, my beautiful Aquarians, that your mother is going through a lot of life changes because life's feeling blocked and restricted and demanding on her. So not an easy process. Can I just encourage you to check in with your mother, love your mother, support your mother right now, because this energy is speaking to the fact that she's dealing with some heavy burdens and obligations, and she may actually be sort of wanting to break free out of life and do something crazy. I'm not talking about suicide. I'm talking about just sort of, sell the house and move to, to Florida or something. And that's not the right thing for her to do. But she's just, I feel, with this energy feeling a lot of burdens that are too heavy and wanting to just up and escape. It's not a time for good judgment. This is a time when our judgment is very unsound. So check in with your mother so that she doesn't make any sort of unsound choices and decisions in life that she then ends up regretting. This is also the house of the enemies of our enemies. It's 6th house from the 6th. So, the enemies of our enemies, well, who are the enemies of our enemies? Usually our friends who take our side and support us. Unfortunately, the enemies of our enemies are having a lot of our friends, in other words, are having a lot of demands on them right now. They mightn't be able to be there for us. They mightn't be able to support us in the way that they usually would. They might be having a lot of problems. So be there for your friends so that they are there for you in dealing with your enemies, of course. But yes, they are perhaps feeling sort of burdened as well. The good thing about this is that it's the 12th house from the 12th. This is the loss of loss. And that's why the 11th house is the house of great gains. Big money is 11th house energy. The trouble is, with this restriction here, the great gains that I've mentioned are not coming easily right now. They're held back. We may still not have a great loss. This Saturn squared to Jupiter is not necessarily going to bring us loss, bankruptcies and things like that. Not at all. But it does mean that the ability to have great gains is held back. So, we're not necessarily going to lose anything, but we just can't seem to move forward, move ahead as we would otherwise want to. There can be also some effects on sort of computer systems and any sort of stock market strategies that you're trying to implement. There can be some legal difficulties there, some bureaucratic difficulties with gadgets and inventions as well that might happen. In fact, Mars is making an aspect to Sagittarius also in the Vedic system, and this can actually be leading to perhaps some breakages for our Aquarius friends, some breakages with gadgets and inventions, and maybe some hiccups with your ability to access the stock market when you need to, or the internet when you need to. Not for everybody. I'm not talking about a mass collapse of the internet systems like we saw recently with the Mars-Uranus conjunction. But more for you personally, Aquarius, your computer might break and therefore you can't put that stock market investment in place or whatever. There can be some problems with those sorts of things. I'll just give you a heads up on that as well. But what I really want to point out for you, Aquarius, is these problems are rarely, if ever, long lasting. They will be here for perhaps a couple of weeks in August, and then they'll start to dissipate, and we can be thankful for that. But during this time, and for all these squares of Jupiter and Saturn, we need to learn to make compromises and be responsible and be stoic. And if we can do this, because this is actually part of a bigger 20-year cycle, if we can do this now, then the rewards are waiting for us in the next couple of years as we refine things and and tweak things and address problems and issues in our friendship groups and with our equipment and gadgets, and if we address issues with how we are creating our gains in life, then out the other side in the next few years when Jupiter and Saturn make a trine, the rewards will be waiting for us. But we have to do the hard work now to make our systems work in our favor to get those rewards in the long run. Thank you, my beautiful Aquarians. Now, as for our final sign, Capricorn rising, sun and moon, thank you so much for waiting until lucky last, Capricorn. This week we're talking about the square between Jupiter and Saturn, I'll get it right, and the fact that in Vedic astrology, both of these planets are aspecting with Vedic planetary aspects Sagittarius. That's the sign that Spirit has told me that this energy will be exhibiting through. The square aspect of Jupiter and Saturn is coming out and expressing through the fellow mutable sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter and Saturn are in mutable signs, and they're expressing now through Sagittarius, another mutable sign. So this is the realm, the 12th house for you, Capricorn, where you might be feeling that there's some moral dilemmas. And Saturn rules things coming back from the past. This could be some kind of insecurity coming back from the past, some destructive behavior that you were either subjected to or that you dished out, some self-sabotaging energy that's coming back and causing you some sort of moral dilemma, making you reassess things. You might need to change your perspective on things, your behavior on things. You might need to take a deep look inside at your psychological inner insecurities. And this is being triggered by some events that happen under this energy at this time for the next sort of 2 weeks or so. I'd also suggest that even though you want to address these things, even though you want to understand where these sorts of behaviors might be coming from, it can be difficult, hard work right now. It can be hard. This is a house of our past lives, either early in this life or other lifetimes, and our karma. Saturn and Jupiter are both planets to do with karma, and I feel that because this energy is heavy and hard and demanding, that there could be for some Capricorn people some heavy karmic repercussions that are occurring now. I want to just say on that topic that there is a need to be responsible and stoic and carry whatever burdens come up now, Capricorn, in order to rid yourself of these karmic weights, let's say. So it could be that somebody comes back from the past. Maybe somebody that you haven't spoken to in years because you got really miffed at them and angry at them. And there's some karma there that you need to be responsible about and sort it out. Address it. Talk it out with that person. That kind of thing. So it could be somebody coming back from the past, an issue from the past, a circumstance from the past. There is a need to really act more responsible and mature about unwinding and unrolling your karma now, my Capricorn friends. Very, very important that you do this. In a practical sense, the 12th house has to do with large expenditures. In Vedic astrology, this is the house of debt and expenses. And there could be some problems with sort of big debts now, maybe you've got a mortgage that you're trying to pay off, and there could be some legal difficulties with your mortgage or some bureaucratic difficulties with your mortgage that you need to go in and readdress. Maybe you're looking at moving your mortgage from a, a variable to a fixed, and there's some I's to cross and I's to dot and T's to cross about doing that. Some difficulties with big debts and big expenses. You might have sort of, Capricorn, been sort of shoving aside, some expenses that you needed to pay off and trying to ignore the fact that you're there. Well, this energy is not going to let you get away with it. I'm afraid it means you have to face your big expenses and big debts. This is actually going to provide you with liberation from those debts, but you've got to do the hard work to face it, deal with it, pay it off. It is hard, and it's very hard because this combination of energies actually can increase our expenses. Financial matters aren't favored. And I just encourage you, my beautiful Capricorn friends, avoid borrowing or lending under this energy, because it's going to come back to bite you if you do. Find ways. Maybe is there something you can sell to pay off a big debt? Is there something, that you can access that doesn't involve borrowing or lending? That you can, something you can access to pay off some expenses that are starting to rear their ugly heads now. I'd encourage you to work hard to find solutions. Jupiter-Saturn square says we have to work hard. We have to address these problems that demand our attention, our debts, our expenses in this case. And really, life feels heavy. Life feels demanding under this energy, Capricorn. But you've got what it takes to sort it out. You might want to escape. This is the house of escapism. You might want to run away because the burdens of life are just feeling too overwhelming, too heavy right now. But I just encourage you not to do that. Okay, have a holiday if you can manage to do so. Have a holiday for a week or so here, or, whatever. That's fine. But you're going to have to face these issues at some point. So escaping into alcohol, escaping into drugs as a way to sort of numb these burdens that are rising up now, not the way to go about this. What we need to do, because we're dealing with a 20-year cycle of Saturn and Jupiter that began in 2020, and we're hitting one of the hard corners of this cycle, what we need to do is be responsible, be stoic, and be mature. We need to make compromises. We need to face our burdens and sort through them. And if we can do that now, Capricorn, with this energy, the result is that blessing lies around the corner. But you've got to face the music, so to speak, now, so that you can receive the blessing when Saturn and Jupiter make their trine in this cycle. So it's hard and difficult, I know that, but Capricorn, if anyone can be stoic, it's you. I know you can do this. You might even find that there are some solutions that present themselves to you in your sleep or your fantasy. You can seek guidance for these things from your angels or spirit guides, if that's what you want to call them. They can be there for you now. So if you're feeling confused about what to do, if you're feeling like you can't take it anymore, reach out. They're right there. They're not far away. You might even like to do a ritual or some sort of ceremony to sort of help you feel more balanced and to sort of interact with the divine energies that are there supporting you, whether you realize it or not. They're there. And you can find that out the other side, like I said, if you can navigate these problems are rarely, if ever, long lasting, and the good results, the blessings can actually come. So that is the end of our cycle around the horoscope, my beautiful friends. Thank you for bearing with me in this altered format. Hopefully I'll be back with you as I usually am next week. My back being rested and repaired, let's hope. But I want to wish you all the love and blessing in the world as you deal with the Saturn-Jupiter square, a very important energy for this year of our lives. May this video be a blessing to you as you've been a blessing to me.